Okay, now we're recording here. Before we get started, I'm going to switch my camera to show you the different, there's my palette. I'm going to have that in a picture while I'm doing the demo. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry. I hope you guys will be patient with me. Oh, and let's switch, and there's my webcam. I'll have that going during the demo. And there is the still life. So, but I'm gonna have to probably unplug. We live in the country, and so our internet connection is not 100%. And so, well, let's see, we lost. So we lose Jenny. Okay. She may have gotten frustrated with her iPad, so maybe she'll
connection.
Yeah. So anyway, we live in the country. We have kind of a slower connection. So I am going to disconnect my camera for the web. I've got 3 webcams set up right now. One for my palette, one for my demo, and one for my for the setup. But I'm going to remove this one so that I make sure I don't lose connection, basically. Because the more webcams you use, the more likely I would lose you guys, and I don't want to do that. So, and we lost Charisse too. So maybe I hope they.
Judy, excuse me, but I think what they did is move their cursor over the camera and put an X over the camera too.
Yeah.
I think they're there, but they're.
I'm still here. I just took my ugly picture off of the page.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm the S.
Okay. All right. I get it. I was thinking, oh, I don't know if I want people to understand the same thing. So, okay. So let's get started here, and welcome everybody. First thing I thought that we would do is just go around, and Susan, would you mind starting and just introduce yourself and say where you're from very briefly? Let's,
Sure.
Now
I don't see my picture on there. Am I supposed? Oh, yes, I do.
Yes,
sure I do.
Yes.
Oh, scary. Okay. I am Susan McDonald. I took lessons from Judy for a year and a half, couple of years, back in 2015, I think. And so we took a little trip to France with a bunch of artists, and I was the brand new one, had 3 lessons, but had a great time. I've hardly painted since then. We've moved to Post, Texas, but I was living in Bluffdale where Judy does. So been in Post several years. This is where we'll stay, and I'm excited about getting back in it. It's been at least 3.5 years since I've painted.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Janet?
I'm Janet Lee. I live in Brighton, Michigan. I have always wanted to paint and have never done it. And I saw the post about the class and thought, well, this is it. I'm going to try it.
Just going to dive in. That's the best way to do it. And I love beginners. So, so welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sherry?
Hi, I'm from the Mississippi coast. I mostly paint in watercolors, but I do some plein air oils, and I learned about Judy from Doc Corson and Susan Patton, and I was going to go take it in person. And of course, COVID canceled all of that.
Right. Well, I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad I finally got to meet you. So, so welcome. Okay, thank you. Hey, Wendy.
Hi. I'm
Okay,
Wendy.
yeah,
I'm Wendy Fry from Ontario, Toronto, Ontario. And Judy and I met in Cape Cod Art School in 1994, taking a course from
Gosh, I can't
Charles
believe-
Stovek. And then we met up again at Scottsdale Art School and got to know her and her husband Byron a little. And then we've lost touch over the years. So we found each other on social media. So that's awesome. And we're up here stuck in COVID. It's pretty bad in Ontario right now. So good to take a course. I was going to teach some beginners, but everything got canceled. So here we are.
Well, I'm glad you decided to take the class, Wendy, and I hope you feel like you picked something up that you can pass along. So
Yeah, and I think that everybody, no matter at what level, it's always good to revisit everything and maybe pick up tips
Right.
too, or share. Maybe
Right,
something I can
right.
share, so that's good.
right. I think I'm
And-
gonna take some classes myself too, just to learn how to do this better. So that, yeah, so. Okay, well, thanks, Wendy, and I'm
Thanks.
so excited you're here.
Me
So,
too. Be fun.
so, hi, Linda.
Hello. Betty and I are here. We're sitting side by side. Can you make sure there's a reverb? Oh, I didn't need it. I don't even have a microphone. Okay.
It's in your computer. So,
Oh, there it is. There it is. That's it.
What happens when you have two phones in the same room or two units in the same room, they
We're
do
getting
feedback,
reverb.
so you have to shut one down.
right.
Okay. No, so I have to shut my computer down? No.
One of you.
Well, let me, you know what? I know a little bit about the two of you. So let me, Linda and Betty are sisters, and you can tell they look a little bit alike. And they are together at a facility in Granbury, which is about 25 miles from me. And I met Betty years ago and have not met Linda. So I think Betty considers herself a beginner. However, she has been painting a little while in watercolor and some oil. So I think she's just wanting to learn a little bit more about oil. And Linda, I'm not sure if you have painted in the past, have you?
I have done, I don't know what to do. I've done abstract in acrylic.
Oh, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
And
Okay.
this is my first time to do oil.
Okay. Okay. Well, good. Well, welcome. Good. And how about you, Melissa? I know a little bit about you.
Yeah, I'm Melissa Daly. I'm in Granbury, and my mother-in-law was a painter, Lindy Daly. And so she passed away, and I always regretted not taking classes with her. So when I had kind of met you through her a little bit after she passed. So
Right.
so that came up, and I said, this is my opportunity. I'm not going to pass it again. So
Yeah. Well,
and I bought a couple of your paintings on an auction type thing. So I
Right.
like your style, and so I decided to dive in.
Oh, great. Great. I'm so glad you're here. Lindy was my first teacher.
Oh, really?
Years and years ago. I loved Lindy.
Yeah.
And she is the one that gave me the passion for painting.
Yeah.
So
I miss her dearly. We were very
yes,
close.
she was a sweetheart. So
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
very funny.
Oh, yes. Oh,
She always
yes.
made me laugh.
Yeah.
Okay.
that?
How about you? Yeah. How about you, Sharice?
I am here in Florida,
Okay.
and I've been doing art for almost 20 years. I started with colored pencil. I've always drawn with pencil and charcoal. I did pastels, soft pastels for about 10 years. And I've painted in oils the last 2 or so. And I primarily do portraits and figures.
Well,
So
I hope you learned some stuff, some things to help you in your journey. You've
can always
already.
learn something.
I agree. I agree. So, okay, I have another student that's actually here in the studio. Don't want to leave Barb out. Can y'all see? Can you come up? I don't know if you can make it over here, Barb. Give us just a second here. I have an obstacle course going. There you go. Anyway, this is Barb.
Hey, guys.
Barb Klein. She lives in Granbury.
I
And why don't you just tell them a little bit about yourself?
Well, I was a Montessori teacher for 40 years and retired 3 years ago, and started painting about 5 years ago with another friend, and then I've taken lessons from Judy. So y'all are in very good hands. So we're gonna have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Barb. All right. Well, let's get started. I wanted to start here with, oh, Virginia's in the waiting room. Here we go. And Virginia's iPad is connecting to audio. So,
Can I ask what state Granbury is in? I don't know where you are.
Texas.
we are in,
Texas.
Oh, okay.
yes, we're in
I
Texas.
lived there for about 11 years.
Good.
Texas.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, I'll have to apologize for my Texas drawl. I've tried to get rid of it, but
Me too.
it's been kind of hopeless. So
It is hopeless. So sorry.
So Virginia is here, but I'm hoping she can. There she is.
I
Hi,
can't see
Virginia.
myself, but I think the microphone is fixed. Maybe?
Good.
Good. Okay.
Yes, we can hear you. So
Oh.
we were just going around and introducing ourselves. So would you like to tell everybody a little bit about yourself, where you're from? And
Oh, sure. Well, I grew up in Pennsylvania, but I moved to California when I was very young and got into animation and worked in animation for all of my career, and retired 4 or 5 years ago. And then I've been taking painting classes and trying to learn to paint on my own. And that's about it. Like to draw, I like to sketch, and but I want to learn to paint from life, which I find really, really hard.
okay, good. Well, I hope that this class helps you do that. So
Oh, thank you.
yeah, so
Yeah.
welcome, Virginia, and thank you so much. And I should call you Jenny, I think.
Jenny, yeah.
Correct?
Either
Okay.
is fine, but
Okay.
okay, thank you.
All right. Well, let's get started. We've got most everybody here. I think everyone else will join. Well, they'll just be doing the class through the video that I send. So I am going to now mute everyone. And the reason I'm doing that is just so if you want to get up and get a cup of coffee, or you need to take a break or whatever, it won't disturb anyone else in the room. And also it will, I'm going to unplug that one camera I told you about. So before, so I'm going to go ahead and mute you and go back to, yes, mute all. And I'm going to go back to speaker view here. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to do was discuss supplies, and note some of you had some questions about canvas size. And I think whatever canvas size you're comfortable with is good. However, I start with small. I think doing value studies and color studies too, I think is I think it's better to start small and to figure out a small composition first. But if you are comfortable painting larger, I'm going to leave that up to you. I usually leave supplies up to the student. If they have good supplies and they know what they're working with, then hey, that's fine with me. However, for those of you that are new, I would like to talk a little bit about the different supplies that I use. Okay, so I'm going to switch my video again. Let's just look at the colors I'm using. I hope you can see this okay. Let me see if I can straighten this out a bit. Right now, I have a limited palette out. I don't have most of these colors out on this portable easel that I have. And if you would like to purchase a portable easel later or an easel for your working space, and you need some suggestions, why don't you email me? I'll be happy to do that, to let you know what I have and what I've used in the past, because I've gone through several of them in the past. I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I've been painting for over 30 years. Can't believe it's that long, but I started with Lindy Daly, Melissa's mother-in-law, and she was a dear, sweet person. But after I took from her about 4 or 5 years, then I moved on and started taking workshops from different artists. And one of them was Charles Sovic, where Wendy and I met. And I can't tell you enough. I sent you information on a book list about his website. Charles has passed away, but his family keeps his website up, and he has little exercises on that website that you can do at home, and they're so easily understood. And I would highly suggest that you go there. It's sovic.com, SOVEK, and that will really help you. He's got lots of information on there. Okay. The second thing I'd like to talk to you about, Barb, can you hand me that book underneath that Tom Browning book? The second thing I'd like to tell you about is this Tom Browning book here. This is what it looks like. And I looked it up, and there are quite a few on eBay and also Amazon. I think the ones on eBay were less expensive, but that is an excellent book, especially for beginners. And he just really talks about the basics of color, value, edges, composition, and drawing skills. And those are the big 5 things that I want to teach you during this 6-week course. And today, I hope you will learn a little bit more about value after the class is over. Okay, so getting back to supplies, I use a lot of these bristle brushes. This is what they look like. I can also send you some photos. This is a filbert here in the center because of the way the bristles are shaped. The other 2 are bristle brights. Now these are hog hair bristle, and I use these a lot. They are stiff and great to pick up a lot of paint. And I do most of my painting with these. Okay. I also, as I had in the, now this is one of those silver white round brushes that I had on your supply list. Silver whites, they're a synthetic hair. I guess I don't know if they're considered a bristle or a sable, but they're kind of medium soft. And those silver white brushes are great. I also like these ruby satin. Now this is a flat. The hairs are longer and it's softer and it's chiseled on the end. But that's one of those ruby satin brushes. I use a lot of those. Here's another one. And this is a synthetic bristle. These are silver brushes. Silver bristle is what they're called. I use a lot of these as well. Okay. I use a variety of palette knives. Let me just set these down here. But I know that it's expensive getting started with all of this stuff. So this is my glass scraper on my, let me just see if I can show you. I don't know if you can see, there's my supplies right down there on the table in front of me. This is a little called a value. I mean, oh gosh, view catcher. And this is good for framing out a composition. And when we talk the lesson that we have coming up that'll talk about composition, we will use this a little bit. I'll show you how to use that. Okay, this is my mineral spirits. I use odorless mineral spirits made by Gamblin. This is called Gamsol. Sometimes I do use a medium. This is walnut oil right here. And I also have walnut oil gel. I don't know if you can see that. This is made by Rublev Colors. But I don't always use medium, but if you want to have some just to thin your paints out a teeny bit, then you can do that. Okay, this is a tube bringer. And here is my palette that I use. Well, you can see my computer, but if you see this is a piece of glass that I ordered, tempered glass. And I have, it's about a, gosh, 20 by 25 size of tempered glass. And that's the palette that I use in my studio every day. And I ordered that from a company called, starts with a D, Durell or something like that. I'll send that to you if you're interested. So that's what this is for. It's a glass scraper. Okay, my canvas, which you will see here in just a second. Let me switch the camera. I'm going to need to turn on my computer. I mean my camera. Okay. Somebody asked me why. Okay, here's my canvas. Now, can you all see that? You can just nod your head if you can see it okay. This is what I'm going to be doing the demo on. Let me think. Canvases. I sent you a list of the canvases that are really inexpensive to use. These canvas pads, they come in all different sizes. And if you didn't get one of these, they're just sheets of canvas that you can take some masking tape and just tape them to a board. And it's so inexpensive way to get started painting and to do all of these studies with. Okay. So trying to think of anything else that we need to cover first. I think not. Oh, we could go back to our paint here. So let me go back to our paints. Okay. Now I'm going to point out the paints that I usually have on my canvas or on my palette. But I don't have all of those out today. And the reason, I'll tell you the reason in just a few moments. This is titanium white made by M. Graham. And I like that white because it's so creamy. Walnut oil is the the oil that's in it. Most of them use linseed oil, but I really like this one because walnut oil dries slower than linseed does. And so I can go into a painting, you know, the next day and the next day, and it'll still be pretty wet. So, and you can also buy alkyd oils that have an alkyd binder in them, and they dry faster. So it just depends on what you get used to and what you like. Okay. This, where the spot is, that's Cad Lemon, and made by Rembrandt. This is Cad Light, made by Rembrandt. This is Transparent Orange, made by Gamblin. This is where my Cad Orange goes, made by Rembrandt. Cad Red Light, Permanent Red Medium, made by Rembrandt. And most all of these are Rembrandt colors, with the exception of Permanent Alizarin Crimson and Transparent Orange. And I use the Permanent Alizarin Crimson simply because the former alizarin can be a fugitive color and it can fade over time. So that's why I always buy the Permanent alizarin. This is ultramarine blue, and this is where my cobalt goes, but I don't have any out. Occasionally I do use a gray, and I have a couple of different tubes of gray just for convenience. I think it's better, and you can do that if you want. I think it's better if you mix your grays, and I'm going to show you how to do that. It's better to learn how to use a limited palette starting out. And the reason for that is because you know how to mix your colors. There are so many colors out there on the market, and there's no way you can buy all of those. And so if you stick with a limited palette, not only do you learn how to mix, but you also learn, my husband just walked in, sorry. Anyway, if you use a limited palette, you learn how to mix your colors, but also your paintings will be more harmonious. You won't have some colors that you don't know thrown in there, and it just kind of throws the harmony of your painting off. So I would highly suggest that you just stick with a few colors and learn how to mix. If I very seldom put a green on my palette, a lot of artists do, but to me, Viridian is not a natural green. I like to make my greens. Okay, so that should do it for supplies. I do try to remember to wear gloves. Oil paints can be toxic, and if you're painting with mineral spirits, please paint in a well-ventilated room. And I have an air purifier in here that I turn on. Sometimes I don't have it on today because it makes a lot of noise. but just use the Gamsol is a little bit less toxic, and wearing gloves helps too. So Susan asked the other day, she emailed me and asked about the water soluble oils. And I haven't used those in a number of years. I have used them. To me, when I tried them before, they were real gluey and I didn't care for them, but I understand that they're a lot better than they are now. I mean, than they were then. So if you want to try those, you can try them and see. I think you can mix those, like if you have 30% water soluble, then you can mix those in with your other oils just to try them out. I wouldn't go more than that. So can I help you, Byron? Do you need anything? Okay. All right. Oh, he wanted to see what we're doing, I think. So, okay. All right, well, let's get started. I'm going to do a demo on this. Let me find it. There we go. So on this still life here. And like I said, I'm probably, I may leave it on until if I start having trouble with my connection, then I will remove that, but I can switch back and forth. Okay. Let me find my, oops. All right, here we go. Now I'm going to share my, can you add walnut oil to your paint? Yes, you can, Linda. Do you ever use water soluble? Oh, okay. Wendy already answered that one. Okay, yeah, you guys, if you want to type your questions in the chat box, that's fine. And of course, we'll have a Q&A after the class is started. I mean, after the demo is done, okay? All right. So let me share my screen. So that you can see my palette and what I am mixing. Okay, I'm not sure why it did that. Okay, I need to invite Linda in here. So give me just a second. I'm sorry for this. I'm trying to share my content from my second camera and I'm not, okay, here we go. All right, you should be able to see my palette now. I need to invite Linda in. We've got somebody waiting in that is having a hard time getting in, so. All right. I'm going to unmute you guys for just a second. Or ask you to unmute. Do you have any questions before we start?
No,
Anybody?
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. All right. All right, good. Can you all see my palette in the top right? Okay, good. All right, let's get started. All right, well, I'm going to mute you again, and let's hopefully Linda will come in just a moment. So let's get started on the demo. You've got the photo. You should have the photo of my still life here. And the first thing I'm going to do is make a gray. Now, this is so easy to do, but it takes a little practice. And you make a gray simply by mixing your three primaries. So I'm going to mix transparent orange and blue. That makes a nice dark green. And then I'm going to add a little bit of alizarin. So I'm mixing my three primaries basically, and I could use yellow instead of the transparent orange. That is really dark. Let's add just a touch of white to it to see what we've got. Like I said, it takes a little practice doing this, but it's best if you learn how to mix a gray. Linda used to say, just think to yourself, gray is beautiful. And it really is. And we'll talk more about that when we talk about color. Now, this is a very warm gray, but a really nice one. So I'm going to move, using my palette knife, this over to the side. And I'm going to add just a touch of blue down here to the bottom of this puddle and cool it off. So I've got a cool version and a warm version of gray here. Okay, so this is warmer here. I don't know if you can see that. Let me take a photo of it and I can send that to you later. Okay. I'm just going to mix those together to make a neutral gray. The reason I like to sketch with a gray is because it's easier if I screw up, which I do a lot. painting is not an exact science. So if I mess up, I can take it off a little bit easier off my canvas than if I used one of these real vibrant, intense colors like a red or a yellow. It's going to leave such a halo and such a, it just doesn't come off of your canvas if you have to move something. But if you start with a gray, it's a lot easier to remove. So that's why I start sketching with a neutral gray. So the first thing I'm going to do is just kind of pinpoint, and this goes into drawing. Every time you paint, you're drawing, you're composing, you're working with color. Even a value study like this, you're working with color. I don't want to get too much in the way, so I hope you can. Barb, would you mind flipping on here? Let me flip on this light. I meant to flip on this light and I forgot. Okay, it's not coming on. Is it plugged in? Huh. Let me see if it flipped a breaker. No. Can you guys see my palette, my painting okay? Can you see this okay? All right. My other light, there we go. Oh, it came loose behind the, there. That should be a little bit better, okay?
I can't see the palette.
It's up here at the top.
Okay.
Who is that speaking?
It's Melissa.
Oh, okay. Can you see it now, Melissa?
No. I mean, I see view, but
Do you see, let's see.
if everybody else sees it, that's okay. I'll figure it out, but I'm just making sure.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, Mel, you need to mute yourself again if you don't mind.
Yep, I
And
will.
okay. It should be, if you put it on speaker view, active speaker view, and take it out of gallery view. I don't know if that will help, but I'm assuming everyone else can see. Janet, can you see the palette? You can. Okay, great. Okay. Now I've made it bigger. I got
it. I got it.
Okay, great. Terrific. I don't know if you guys can make the palette a little bit bigger on your screen. Now I was able to. So if you can, you could pull that down, pull your cursor over the corner of the window and enlarge it. I don't know if that would help you. I don't know if you can do that or not in your own computer, but okay, let's keep going here. So see, I think I've got this bottle a little too fat. So I'm going to And I don't want to stand in front of my canvas, but here's my little creamer. Now I'm drawing with straight lines, if you'll notice. And the reason I'm doing that is because really nothing in nature is real curved. Everything is made up of planes. Now, just think of geometric planes. Okay. Let me take that off. And this is generally the way I start. It's not the only way to do it, but it's generally the way I start. And as you can see, I have to move stuff around and change things a lot. Drawing has always been something I have to really work at, especially when you're painting with still life. Now, when I see that, I'm not going to move it this time, but actually I should have moved everything over a little bit. There's too much space over here. We will talk more about that when we discuss composition, okay, at a further meeting. So, okay. The next thing I am going to do is start putting in simple, abstract, geometric shapes. I'm going to treat this like it's a puzzle, and I'm going to start putting in pieces of the puzzle to make up the whole. I hope that's understandable, but maybe when I get finished, you will understand what I'm talking about. So I'm going to start with all my shadow planes. I'm going to be talking a lot about planes. I am stopping here just a second to see if well, Linda has not been able to get in. Okay. All right, these are all my cast shadow planes created from my light source, which is coming from the top left. If you
Judy, I'm having
notice,
trouble watching you work because of your shoulder getting in the way.
okay, thank you for telling me that. I will try to stand over to the side a little bit more.
Thank you.
I am going to be purchasing a different piece of equipment so that I don't have to do that.
So when
So
you're
all-
when you're wiping away, what are you using to wipe away?
Okay, I'm just using a paper towel. Let's,
Oh.
if you guys don't mind, let's save the questions for the end. If, Janet, I'm glad you asked me or told me that I was getting in the way, but, okay, these are all shadows that I see in my subject. Okay. And there's one inside here. There's a little bit of a darker shadow inside this bottle. It's being cast from little creamer. Everything that you paint is relative. So you have to compare, squint and compare. When I paint, I try to remember to squint down, and I mean, close your eyes halfway so that you can see the simple abstract shapes of the objects that you're painting. For instance, I see a shape here on the side of the bottle, goes all the way down. I see this shape here as I put in. These shadow shapes. Now I'm just looking at the shadow shapes right now. And I'm comparing one to the other. For instance, this shape is darker. So I'm adding just a touch of white to the shape in the egg itself. So there's a shape here, a shape here, very simply. Like I said, just puzzle pieces of shapes, of color, and these shadows are very important because they define the subject. They define the whole. So, and included in all of that is the background and the foreground, okay? Linda used to say, every painting has an ugly stage. So I must be right on track so far, because this doesn't look like much, does it? But that's okay. So here we go. There's a shadow plane there. Staying with my puzzle pieces. Now I'm going to use a little bit of terps to thin this down so that I can get this on. Really, my darkest dark is right here. When I squint down, that is the darkest thing. Besides this trim, there's a trim on that creamer. So and this shape actually just goes right into that other cast shadow there. There we go. All right. These shadow planes on the eggs themselves are a little lighter. Squinting down, I think this one is even a little lighter than that one. Okay. Now let's put in our background. Since I've made my gray, and you see that I'm making grays here, I think what I'll do is, if you're, you can just nod to me. Are you all able to hear me okay? The connection is good? Great. That's good news. So let me go back to my still life in the top right. Oh, there's my, there. Let's see if I can get that just a hair closer, even. So you've seen me mix my grays. I want you to see what I'm looking at. So these are the shadow planes of the egg themselves. Here's the cast shadow. And underneath those eggs are what we call a closed shadow. Just a small abstract shape to set those eggs down on the table. That is so my subject is not floating. And if you squint down, those are just small little shapes underneath those objects. All right, I am going to take a bigger brush here, a bigger bristle, and I am going to put in my background. Shape. Thin it down a little bit with some mineral spirits. Now, painting in the black and white like this or monochromatic, and you could really use any color. You don't have to use gray and white. You can use, make a earth tone or something with, and do monochromatic study. Okay, when I'm doing this, I need to carve out okay. Squinting down to see. This is a little darker right back behind this creamer. All right, let's put in our foreground. That's this portion here. I'm going to add just a touch of transparent orange to that to warm it up just a tad, and plenty of paint. And carve out, being careful about my edge work. This is edges, and this is part of the drawing of the painting as well. And I hope I'm not standing in front too much, but I'm having a hard time seeing the still life. I will try to move out of the way often. So far, we really haven't softened too many edges. And as you can see, it looks like puzzle pieces, just big puzzle pieces. The reason I sent you that photo of that cougar is because it showed the plains. Everything in nature has plains. And if we finish, that's what time is it? Is 11:15. So we should have time for me to maybe do a little color study and just show you a little bit better what I'm talking about. But give me just a second. I'd like to show you my planes of the head. Everything in nature has planes. Arb, if you're getting warm, why don't you turn that off over there? Here's a good example of the planes in a head. And so when you're painting, you need to look for the abstract shapes in all the objects that you are painting, whether it's a cup or an egg or an apple or whatever it is. Even round objects can have planes. And so hopefully you can't really see that real well because of the way the camera's positioned, but you get my drift, I hope. So getting back to our still life. All right, squinting down. Now I want to, this is really the fun part, is getting into your lights. Now I want to put in my light planes for all these objects. So squinting down, I'm comparing while I'm squinting one from the other. And I can see that this one is, this shape is just a tad bit darker than these. And these are a tad bit darker than this. This is really my lighter plane, but the very lightest light on the whole subject are my highlights. I see a strong highlight on this guy right there. So even the light plane underneath on that object has to be brought down in value, just a little, not a lot, but a little. And then we have to come to paint these just a little bit darker than that, this a little darker than that. And it just means adding small increments of paint. So let me go back to the other view of my palette here. Okay, so got these piles going right next to each other, and I'm just going to add just a touch of gray and maybe a teeny bit of my transparent orange here to warm it up for this tone. Okay, trying to get my drawing correct. I have to constantly work at that. More paint. Drawing is hard for me. but it's so important. But you get better with time. So, and practice. I shouldn't say with time, I should say with practice. Because I really hope you guys will practice this at home this week. Even though it looks elementary, okay, I'm gonna carve out that lip of this guy. All right. Haven't really softened too many edges yet. We will do that though, because that's what will bring it all together. Okay, now I want to pull the value down just a little more. Just a hair more. I'm adding touches of this other gray that I made. For the eggs. Trying to get the shape right. And I can see I'm going to have to fix my drawing a little. I hope I'm not standing too much in front of the. How are you doing over there, Barb? Okay. Yes, I'm glad you did too. Okay. Now there is a lighter shape. Actually, it's pretty light inside here in this ellipse. So I'm going to pull out some more white, lighten it up a little more, add a little more transparent orange, and pull that in. Okay. Okay. There's a light plane, a little bit darker right here. The edge of this on over to this ellipse. All right, those are my basic shapes. Got the whole canvas covered for the most part. I want to pull this over a little. Okay, so during the painting process, all the time you're doing this, you're correcting your drawing, you're working on your edges, you're thinking about value, and that's a lot to think about, but the more you go and the more you do it, believe me, it gets a lot easier. And so I would just encourage you guys to just practice. So now at this point, if my values are correct and I start modeling this together. So, and I shouldn't say modeling together. I really should say doing my edge work. Okay, this is very important. Edge work pulls these shapes, these abstract shapes together and makes it look like something. Gives it that 3D effect, okay? So let's try to do that. And if I step in front of the canvas, I apologize. I will try my best to stay to the side. I'm having trouble seeing this is a learning experience for me too. Just figuring out. So When I squint down, I see this shape is very soft here. So I'm going to pull that together. Soften this shape. We'll put a little more color back in here to define that edge. And pull some of that into the shadow, but not too much. Now, there are some lights underneath. Whenever light hits a subject, and so my light's coming from this direction, okay? It's hitting this right here, these in here, okay? So that light is what defines, it wraps around those objects. And as it wraps around, it gets darker. Okay, that's pretty logical, actually. But underneath, if your still life is sitting on a white cloth, a lot of times the light will bounce off the horizontal plane, the foreground, or the tablecloth, and bounce up into the object, and that is called a reflected light. But I can't get anything in my reflected light too light, because it'll make my objects appear like they have a hole in them. So you have to be very, very careful and squint down. Squint, just hold your eyes half closed and squint down to see where those reflected lights are, and just barely put those in. Just an indication. And that will really make an object seem like it has body or mass, okay? That's what we're trying to do, is create mass. Not easy on a two-dimensional form to make something look 3D, but very doable. So now I see that I've lost my drawing here for this egg. So I have to be very careful. I am going to put some of my shadow plane back in here. Soften that edge. Really starts to make those eggs look round, hopefully. That's the plan anyway. Okay, now let's correct my drawing here. Soften some edges here. And in just a few, I will put that darkest dark in there of this enamelware. It's got a black. I don't know if that's black or blue, but it looks black. So we're going to paint it black. We'll soften this edge here, because we don't know where the back stops and the foreground stops and the backdrop begins. Because when I squint down, all of that's kind of disappears. Soften these edges. I'm squinting to see where my hardest and soft edges are. Now I see a pretty hard edge right here. So I'm going to leave that. If I soften everything, nothing will pop out. Edges are really important. I hope you can see why I think starting with absence of color is important first. When you throw in color, it does make it a little bit. Now, I created a third value in this bottle. My shadow really comes, if I squint down, it comes all the way over here. I don't know if you can see that, all the way over here. However, this part of the shadow is a lot lighter. So I really pulled those shapes together. There. To create my form and to just match what I see. That's basically what I'm doing, is I try to paint what I see when I'm squinting and observing my subject. All right. Let me go back and correct my drawing. Need to soften this edge here. You can't see, but I'm using, let me just see if I can show you, but let me point this down. Just look at the palette view. You can see I have paper towels down there. They're hanging below my palette. I wipe my brush a lot. I make sure I have a paper towel in my left hand while I'm painting. I've just gotten into this habit that I forget to even mention it. But every time I take a brush stroke, I will either clean my brush or at least wipe it on my paper towel. Okay. Now, this edge, whoops, should be. Not that light. Carve out my drawing again. And over here. Now I lost my lights. It happens. So let me put those back in. And I'll highlight here. what happens if you keep going back into your objects, you lose that freshness. Okay. Now I see a couple of little highlights here, here, and something that's created by this. Now I would recommend, well, I'll put a little blue in there. I'm reverting back to my other colors here. I don't want to do that, but I see a little blue reflected light right there. And a highlight here. Just a real simple, small highlight right there. All right. I am going to take a smaller brush, one of my little sable brushes here, and I'm going to try to clean some of this up. And before I go too much further, I'm going to take my dark gray that I made over here because it looks black, doesn't it? And with a very light touch, put in that darkest dark of that rim over there. Just very carefully. I'm wiping my brush almost constantly. Okay, I lost my handle. So I see there's a darker shape, which defines it a little bit better right here. That's just a shadow plane, but it's a little bit darker. I am trying to just clean up these areas. Now, this is where I might use just a teeny bit of walnut oil. What the medium does, and I've used, let me see if I can show you this real quick. If you look up in your top right, I have a tabaret that I've got setting over here. And on it, I have all my brushes, but I've also got a whole bunch of, I don't know if you can see beside the brushes, I've got some little bottles, and those are just various mediums. And I don't use them all the time, but they come in handy for finishing work. Now, I've got a teeny bit of walnut oil on my brush here. I'll wipe some of it off. And that's just going to help me pull some of this together. Wipe my brush again. I'm going to pop that dark back in. This is really my darkest shape right here, other than this trim. Very carefully moving it around. Now the edge here is softer. I'll soften it. Okay, let's soften some of this, soften this edge. Because when I squint down, I see that these shapes flow together just a little bit, but be careful when you do this because you'll end up losing it all. And what you don't want to do, Richard Schmidt, and I've sent you the book of his, he calls it licking, where you end up moving some of it when you soften an edge and you end up moving all of this light shape into the shadow and you lose it. And then all of this becomes just one value. And you don't want to do that. I want to caution you to be careful to keep your value shapes, even if you're cleaning up like I'm doing here. I want to caution you not to lose your value shapes. All right, that is not the best demo I've ever done, but I hope you can see that. I'm going to unmute you while I'm gonna maybe continue to work on this just a bit, but if you guys want to unmute yourselves, if you have questions, why don't you start asking those? Everybody still.
Judy, you use the term pulling through a couple times when you're using the brush. What do you mean by that?
Well, if you are the rest of you there? Can I hear?
Yeah. I am.
Yeah, we're here.
I'm not seeing everybody.
Mm.
For
We're
some
all
reason.
here. Yeah, we're
Okay.
here.
For some reason, it's not wanting to let me into the gallery view. Let me go down. Huh. Weird. Gallery view. I don't know why it's doing that. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter. As long as
you
you
don't
can
need
all
to
hear
see
me.
us. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, pulling through. Did I say that? Okay. I don't even know what I'm saying sometimes, I guess, but like if you're wanting to soften an edge, say, okay, this edge right here, when I squint down and I look at my subject, it's harder than this edge. So what I might do is just pull some of my this plane into this one. Now, does that make sense? Or I might pull through one shape into another. Does that
Okay,
answer
so
your
you're
question?
dragging the brush to move the paint to soften the.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
The transparent orange. Is that the second one? I've got some right here.
Soften those eggs shapes.
When you use the term soften, are you using a dry, brand new brush without solvent on?
Not necessarily, but I make sure my brush that I've wiped it really good with my paper towel. But yeah, you could do that. You could make sure your brush is either absolutely clean, like you've gotten a new one, a clean one, or make sure that you clean the one that you've already got in your hand. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I heard you use walnut oil once. That's why I was curious if you were using oil when you were softening or not.
No, no, I do not. Well, I take that back. I think I did when at very first I dipped my my brush into a teeny bit of walnut oil, but then I wiped most of it off.
Okay.
Okay, when you started doing the background gray
Uh-huh.
on
Uh-huh.
the top, you said take a bigger brush, a bristle. So which brush was that?
Let me. I started this. Can you see that?
That upper background. And what is that brush called?
This is a Robert Simmons hog hair bristle.
So the word is bristle, not bright or flat?
Well, the words bright and flat or round refer to the shape of the brush. Bristle refers to what it's made out of. So a bristle brush like this is made of hog hair, and it's really, really stiff. And it's good for working in large areas. But the filbert, this is a filbert, and it refers to the shape of it. Actually, this may have been a flat in the beginning, and I tend to hold my brush on the side like that and scrub those in when I'm using a bristle. Okay. So,
but that one is a filbert.
This one looks like a filbert, yes.
Okay.
This is a flat. Now this is a synthetic bristle called Silver Bristlon.
Uh-huh.
Can you see that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So that was just a bigger bristle brush that you used.
Yes. Anybody else have any questions or?
So do you use the same brush for lights and darks and just wipe it in between?
Well, I tend to do that. I tend to get going, and a lot of artists do change their brushes, and they will have, they'll have several going in their hand at one time, and then they'll choose a light or dark, but I tend to not do that. That's probably a bad habit of mine, but anyway.
Okay, two things, and maybe I just missed it, but I don't know about the photo of the cougar.
Okay.
And the other thing kind of goes along with this. Would it be a good idea for us to have a picture of what you're painting from, of the still life, beside us? Because on my screen, it shows you painting, and then in the corner is your palette, which is all great. But, like when you say, well, I see just a little more shadow when I squint over here or over there. We can't see that.
Okay. Yes.
And maybe I'm the only one thinking this way, but I'm like, gosh, you can see shadows like no one I've ever known. It amazes me how you do this. And so when you refer to a shadow, okay, well, here's a little bit lighter shadow just right here. I almost wish I could see the still life to be able to see what you're seeing.
Well, I pulled it up on my phone so I could look at the still life that she had set up that she emailed to us.
Well,
Right.
It's the same.
look,
Yep.
I didn't have it. So
Oh.
maybe that's me, like I say.
Um,
What
you
was it?
should have, yeah, you should have gotten it. Now it's in the thumbnail. So maybe you can compare it to what I've got on my canvas now.
Sure,
Um,
sure. I did from time to time. I just don't know why. I guess, what was it sent under when you sent the still life?
I sent it last night, Susan,
Yeah.
in the email. It was the very last photo in the email that I sent.
Okay, well, don't spend any time with me. I'll keep looking. to
Well,
see
I'm
if I had it.
looking.
It was sent yesterday at 8:57 PM. It's called Class Tomorrow and Zoom. And it has a number of photos and the cougar pictures in it and some other studies. It's the very last image in that
Okay,
email.
I just didn't get it. I'm
Okay.
looking. I just
Mhm.
didn't get it. I have your link
Hmm.
to our class. So just something happened and I just didn't get it. So
Well, I apologize for that.
it's okay.
And would y'all like for me to send that earlier in the week, or I can send that earlier in the week, or
Yes. Earlier.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
Yes.
okay,
Yeah,
I will.
just-
I'll,
Yeah, but it would just be so helpful. And I see now they got it. I just didn't get it, to have that and keep looking back and forth like you are. 'Cause
right.
It helps us see what you're seeing.
Right.
Okay, great.
I may try next week. I may try to set the camera up a little bit differently so that you can see my palette. And also, like I said, I'm going to order some equipment so that I hope to set it up a little differently so you can see the palette, the still life, and my painting that I'm doing. I'd really like for the painting to be a little bit bigger, but can y'all see the painting okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay. All right, well, good.
Yeah, so when I'm on Zoom, and I'm on a computer, not an iPad, so I know it could be different, but if you move your cursor to the line between the gallery view and the view of what you're doing, you can slide that back and forth so that you can make the palette or the still life photo bigger, and
So-
then you can slide it the other way and the painting gets bigger. And it's really helpful to be able to do that during the
Okay.
class.
I'll bet.
I
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am not understanding what you're saying. Are you talking to me, Jan, or?
I was talking to the rest of the students in the class as well as you, Judy, but there's
Yeah.
when you select view and you are in the gallery view
Uh-huh,
and you've got the smaller views down the sidebar.
uh-huh.
If you put your cursor right on that line, that double line, you can drag it then if back and forth. And the gallery view on the side, you can make it a split screen. You can make it really small. You can just drag it back and forth.
I'll have to play with that. I'm not sure I see. Now you can't see my still life and my palette right now, can you?
No, I see the painting on the left and the still
okay.
life on the right. And if I want the
Okay.
still life on the right to get bigger, I just put my cursor on that little double line
Right,
in
right.
between and then pull it to the left, hold it and pull it to the left and it gets real big, or I can pull it way over to the right and it gets real small and the painting is larger.
Right.
Would
right.
that be the same thing as the plus and minus? I don't have a cursor and I'm on an iPad, so I don't know where to
Well, I
move.
tried putting your finger on the double line then and then moving it back and forth.
And that
Mine is
line,
not a double line. It's just a
Mine's
little
not
white
either.
eye.
Oops.
Mm.
Oh, I lost it.
I
All right,
don't
can y'all
know.
hear me?
Do you have Zoom on your iPad?
I
there-
do.
Okay. You could go in and start your own meeting and play with it a little bit so that you figure it out. But
Mhm.
she's right. I'm glad to hear that you can do that. That you can make that that image a little bit bigger, because I can. And so all I do is I drag my cursor over the corner and pull it, and it makes it bigger. And as long as you're in the single view. Now, I don't know, I can't do it in the gallery view, but if I'm in a single view where it just shows the still life and and my painting, then I can do it. So you might play with that this week, Susan, and see if
Okay.
you
Would
figure
it
out-
be turn on center stage? That's marked out on mine. Does anybody have that on your Zoom? Turn on center stage?
There are some wonderful YouTube videos on how to work with Zoom. So I
Yeah.
would suggest, yeah, that and I will
Okay.
send you a copy of, how about if I send you a copy of the still life on Thursday morning? I will set it up. I have I'm working in here every day, so I can't really set up, well, I guess I could set up the still life earlier in the week. I'll try to do that, okay? So I can send you a photo of the still life just by itself. And if I have any
Perfect.
other information, I'll send you, then I'll try to send that separately so that you have a still life photo, okay?
Perfect.
Does that help? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Does anybody have any questions, or is this all clear as mud, or?
Judy, I was trying to do a paint along.
Oh, you are good.
So where is it? It's there.
Oh,
Only
well,
made my own.
good.
Oh, my.
You guys can do that if you want to.
I think it's a
can-
good idea because, I'm kind of listening to you about shadows and lights and, your different movements. And then I had your picture here as well. So then my still life's a bit different, but that helped me to kind of, look at the
Wow.
different things I was
Right.
focusing.
So yeah,
Wendy, show us your painting again.
yeah,
You have to
Wendy's been
talk or else we
painting a
can't
long
see you.
time. Yeah.
I didn't see it.
Maybe you can take a photo of it, Wendy,
Sure.
and send it to me, and I'll send it out to everybody.
Okay.
Do you guys mind if I share email addresses? I'll send an email out about that too, but I hate to send you too many emails. I feel like I'm inundating you with stuff, but so is this understandable? Do you understand where I'm coming from? And the reason I sent the photo of the cougar is because I saw that in Home Goods this week, and I took a photo of it because I thought, well, that might be interesting to put in a painting. But it shows the planes. Everything in nature has planes. It's made up of geometric planes. Now let me do something here. Would you hand me that? There's a banana in that box, Barb. Do you see or one of those, maybe an apple or? Yeah. No banana. Oh, you know where it is? It's over on my, sorry. There's a green apple. Let me maneuver this just a little bit, and I will be right back. I'm going to remove the still life. A banana really is kind of a good way to for me to explain what to look for. And I'm going to turn my light down just a hair. Now you can see the still life, I hope. And enlarge it if you know how and can. I'm going to move the camera just a little closer. Now, these bananas have planes. There's a plane here. And as it turns, see this ridge? There's a plane here. There's a plane on the top side. Same here. It's a little bit easier to see on a banana. Do y'all see that?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. That's what you're looking for in any of your subject matter that you are going to be painting. So let me get another canvas. This is an 8x8. And let's just paint one banana. Okay. Now, can you see the banana, guys? Can everybody see the banana? Okay.
Yep.
All right. So paper towel in hand. Let me move some of my mixed paints over here.
So V is in Victor. I did look him up the other day. It sounds like she had. I just remember that it's kind of an odd name. She's going to get planes.
Okay. So let's just sketch on this banana. I'll sketch it onto my that's my gray, but it's a little dark. And part of my subject is always my cast shadow here.
I can see your banana, but I cannot see you sketching.
And I'm just the opposite. I see you sketching and I don't see the banana.
Judy, could you mute all of us so that it doesn't pick up the mics and keep switching from
Yeah.
person to person?
Yes, I can.
And then share either the banana or your palette would be great. Thanks.
I can tell Janet knows a lot more about. um,
A lot more than Susan.
okay, I'm gonna mute you guys. Who said they could not see my palette? I mean, my painting? Who was it that said they couldn't see the painting?
Charisse.
Charisse? Can you see it now, Charisse? There should.
No, I still just see the banana.
Okay, I'm not sure why. I think everyone else can see my palette still. You should be able to see it.
Charisse just shows an S on instead of her person. So maybe if you know how to fix that.
I purposely turned, it's just a
Oh,
picture of me.
oh,
I turned it off. That doesn't
Okay.
affect anything
Sure.
else.
Okay.
Okay,
Therese, try going up to view options at the top and choosing side-by-side mode.
can you do that, Charisse?
There is no such option.
Okay,
In fact, I
Um,
lost the choice of gallery or speaker at the very beginning.
okay, I don't know why that is. Do you have a list of options at the bottom of your screen?
No, the iPad doesn't have anything at the bottom.
Hmm.
Just go ahead with your demo. It doesn't matter.
Okay, you should be able to see it all with the recording. That's one good thing about my sending recordings, okay? And if any of you have any trouble viewing the recording, please let me know, okay? So I'm gonna mute you all and go on with this demo. Charisse, maybe if you play around with it a little bit, you can get the speaker view back and you should be able to see the still life. So, okay, I'm going to continue with this with painting this banana. So part of this is definitely the cast shadow. So I'm going to go ahead and paint that in. It's just a flat abstract shape. It's too dark. Here we go. Okay, now within the banana itself, there are definite planes. I'm just going to map those out for you. There is a plane here and a plane here. And there are actually planes on the stem as well. Here's that bottom of the banana. These are the darkest darks I see. Putting those in. Everything is about painting in correct value shapes. The shapes of the planes that you see. So as the light source is coming from this direction, okay, hitting the banana right here. So what I see, actually, there's a plane around here when the banana turns. There's a slight plane right there. So we're painting geometric shapes. And the lightest thing I see is this plane on the banana right here on top. Well, as it turns around, this plane gets a tad bit darker and a little grayer. And we'll talk more about that when we talk about color. But most things, you do not paint them with the paint straight out of the tube because the colors are too intense. So when I say graying something down, I just simply mean taking the edge off of it a little bit. And there's several ways to do that, but mostly just adding just a touch of the complement of that particular color, and it will gray it down enough. Now, I'm just taking some of the gray that I had mixed already and pulling that value down a little bit where the plane change is. Make sense? I hope so. And you have to get all of these planes in. Now, this plane over here, and I told you there was one more plane, it is a little bit darker than this, but lighter than this one. Because I'm squinting and comparing the two. So something similar to this. And that's where the banana, you know, the shape of it comes around. I hope that makes sense. It's just defined by the shape of the banana and the way it's sitting on the table. Now, this plane underneath, if I squint down, it's almost the same value as this one. However, it's a teeny bit lighter than that over to the side. So this is a little bit of a challenge. It's okay. So let me it's about the same. Oop, that's too green. I must have had more blue in that than I thought in my color. Okay. Actually, that is a better color for this plane. At least on this side of it. Okay. About the same value, maybe just a tad bit lighter underneath here. And the reason it's a tad bit lighter is, especially right here, is because of the fact that it's sitting on that table. Now, sometimes I have to manipulate my values because I don't always get it right the first time. Now I'm going to go back and put in this top plane for my stem. Now there's a plane down below where the banana sits on the table. That's that closed shadow. Very important. And I see my banana's a little cattywampus. So is that even a word? Cattywampus. Soften this edge. I can see my cast shadow comes all the way up into the side of the banana. So you're just constantly piecing things together until it looks right to you. And I really think I could make this plane a little bigger. Okay. And this side comes more over here. These are all drawing things. And like I said, I have to constantly work at my drawing. But I hope that explains a little bit better what a plane is, what you're looking for. And a lot of times, like with a head or a face, it's all about where the bone structure is on a face. You know, the on a head, Charisse, on a head, the eye sockets are the darkest plane. I guess for those of you that have drawn a lot with line, I want to get you to see in terms of shape and not just line. It's good to know how to draw with line, but we also need to know how to draw with shape. You can describe anything with shape instead of line. I hope that makes sense, but okay. Why don't you all unmute yourselves again and tell me, you know, ask any more questions that you have. You guys still there? Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Does anybody have any questions? Susan, does that explain it a little bit better? I hope.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that looks wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, in other words, we have to paint the planes of objects rather than just, and it's all about light and shadow. Basically, squint down, paint what you see. Try to match the color that you see and the shape that you see so that you can paint it the way you see it. And if it doesn't look like what you're seeing, then go back and squint and compare it to your subject and go back and correct your drawing or correct the shapes. And actually your drawing art is about the shapes. So I would also recommend that you get that Tom Browning book. He's very articulate. It's now, Wendy, you took that Tom Browning workshop. We took one together.
Yeah.
How did you feel about him?
Oh, I love him. Actually, he gave me one of the studies. If you remember, he gave you one of the head.
Yes.
And he gave me one of the figure in the landscape, and it's hanging on my wall.
Yes. I remember.
I always treasured that time.
Well, how did you feel he was as a teacher?
Oh, excellent. I felt he was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, he explained everything, made sense, gentle correction, guiding. He was wonderful.
Yeah. So basically, this is what the way he explained it to us, I think, is to paint shape and form. And when when you understand how light falls on a subject and how it wraps around and creates light and shadow, if you paint light and shadow and keep those, your light and shadow separate, you don't want to muddle it all together. So don't start taking your brush and what Richard Schmid used to call was licking it. You would, when you know, muddle everything, all your shapes together. You don't want to do that.
I'll
I
just
hope
add, Judy, I'll just,
Yes.
there's the picture.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, he just put in a light shape, just to follow on what you're saying. And, you know, the shapes and a little shadow here where her arm is, you know, and then the dark underneath. So it's just the beginning of a painting. But, yeah, it was just very simply done. So anyway, what you're saying.
Yes, yes. So you can paint anything as long as you paint the shape and the, I don't know whose dog is barking.
I am so sorry. The FedEx man came along.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to mute you just for a second.
Mute me. Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, so paint shape. What I'd like for you to do this, I don't know what time it is. It's about time for 12:20. So guys, this week, I'd like for you to do something at home. Do a value study. Do a couple of them. Another thing I would suggest is paint something every day, because believe me, it makes such a big difference. If you can set up your still life and set up a workspace in the corner of a room, if that's what you have, make sure you have adequate lighting. Some of you may have a studio, others may not. For years, I didn't have a studio. And you can just set your easel up in the corner of your kitchen or whatever. And paint from life every day. It's very important to paint from the real thing. And you can paint from photographs, and you're welcome to start out, especially for those of you that have never painted before. If you want to start by painting copying what I send you, I'm going to send you a copy of the still life that I painted today. And if you want to copy that just to get started and practice, that's fine. You can paint from my photograph that I sent you yesterday, or you can set up your own still life. And I think you all got the supply list that had a picture of those spotlight. That I used one of those for years, and now they make the LED lights that are a little bit brighter and that don't get so hot. If you buy a spotlight and you buy a hot light, one that gets hot, to get it brighter, make sure you buy a spotlight that has a porcelain screw in it, because those hot lights will melt a plastic one. So, but get you a couple of spotlights, spotlight your palette if you paint at night, or if you don't have enough light to paint by. And yeah, that's the best advice I can give you, is to paint every day and to paint, and don't get too hard on yourself. This is a new experience for me, teaching in Zoom. Have never done it before, so I'm gonna just change the okay. Okay, I was just going to change it back to me so you could see me. Does anybody else have any questions or Did we lose someone? I think maybe we lost somebody. Is Mel still there? Mel, are you
Yeah.
there?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm still here. Yeah.
Okay, great.
So I did have a question on the palette. So that palette is just a piece of glass?
Mine that I use every day is a piece of glass. And on your supply list, I suggested you buy one of those Masterson Stay Wet palettes. They're white. They're a plastic piece. That's what actually. Uh-oh. Let me go back to. Oh, switching these cameras is murder. Okay. So that's what this thing is. It's just a plastic container. It's a rectangular piece of
Yep.
plastic. And
Okay.
it has, I'll show you this. Originally, I was trying to set up, okay, now here is the lid that goes with that.
Okay.
There's this plastic lid that fits over there. And thank you. Here, let me hand. And then I bought this. Thank you, Barb. I bought this piece of plastic. It's 12 by 16. I mean, glass. This is tempered glass. And I bought this off of a website called New Wave Palette. And it's called a Posh palette. It's a piece of 12 by 16 glass. And I may set it up like this next time because it sits. Last time before I was thinking about putting that up upright right next to my painting so that you could see what I was mixing better. But
Yeah.
and I may still do that. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, and that's what the glass scraper is for. So does that answer your question?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
So you don't use the glass in the palette, you use the palette like a tray to hold your brushes and your.
Well, no, not necessarily. I mean, normally you would put the glass in the palette and use, yeah. I was just using the bottom of it to get organized here. But that's what the glass is. The glass really goes inside the palette in order to protect it. And you can buy a 12 by 16 piece of glass at Lowe's or Home Depot. You know, if that may make it cheaper for you.
I've actually bought a frame that was that size, and I slipped a piece of like paper bag under it to make it a neutral.
Oh, well, there you go. You can do that too. Did you understand what she said, Mel?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, Judy, could you talk a little bit about cleanup and storage of materials and that kind of thing, and what you do with your brushes when you're not using them, that kind of
Yes.
tips?
Good, very good question. Thank you. So in the evening, when I'm finished painting, I clean my brushes with clean mineral spirits before I leave. I do not leave paint in them. They will dry up and ruin that way. So I clean them really good. Periodically, I clean them with a brush cleaner that I buy, and I will try to remember to take a photo of that and send it to you. It's made by Jack Richardson, and you can buy it off of probably at Michael's or any of the online supply stores as well. And I do that periodically when I feel like my brushes are getting a little too stiff. and not working like I want them to, then I might clean them. I might put a little bit of Vaseline to reshape the bristles. So after I clean my brushes really well, now if you have your paints in the Stay Wet palette, you can put the lid on, and it should keep the paints fairly stable for a while. Now I paint every day, so I leave my paints open. You know, I've usually got them out on my bigger palette here. And since I paint every day, it's normally not a problem. Sometimes they do dry up and you have to just scrape them off and trash them. Okay. You can buy some walnut oil. And if you buy walnut oil, don't buy it at the grocery store, buy it from an art supply. And you can mix a little, that extends oil paint just a little bit. They don't dry quite as quickly. Okay. What else? My paintings, when they're wet, you have to just set them up. I have a little rack that I set them up against the wall, and it takes about a week for them to dry, really, depending on where you live. It can be humid or it can be really dry here. So it varies as to how long it takes for them to dry. But generally, I would say give or take a week. Okay, how long does it take your paintings to dry? And it depends on how thick you paint as well. How long does it take yours to dry, Wendy?
Myself. Actually, I've been doing a lot of painting in water-based or water-soluble paints, so they're pretty quick, right? 2
Oh,
weeks.
okay. Okay.
But because the studios up here, they don't want any solvents or anything nut-based or anything for allergies. So they basically have us do the oil, water mixable oil.
Right. Okay.
But the traditional oil I'm using now, like that'll take a couple of weeks for sure.
Right. One important thing is about when you finish painting for the day, make sure you take any terp rags out and do not leave them in your studio or the home. I generally put them in a plastic bag, take them in the house, and I drench them with water. I have personally never known of anyone whose terp rags have spontaneously combusted, but there have been artists in years past who have had that problem and had that happen to. So I never leave, especially during the winter time, if you've got, you know, other fumes going in your home, definitely don't leave your terps rags around in your studio space. Okay, dispose of them. Trying to think of anything else.
Judy?
Yes.
When you were painting and you were dipping your brush in the liquid, was that water or was that mineral spirit?
No, that's mineral spirits. When you're painting with oils, you have to use mineral spirits.
Okay,
unless you're using water soluble oils. Okay. If you're using water soluble, then you can use water because that's what they're made for.
Yeah.
But when you're painting with oils, you have to use mineral spirits. And I like the Gamsol. Gamsol is less toxic for you to breathe. Okay.
When you say mineral spirits and then you say terps, do you mean the same thing by those two words?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. What else? Shira, you are so quiet. Do you have?
I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm just taking it in.
Okay. Is all this clear as mud? to everybody, or I hope you feel like you've learned something today, and thank you for bearing with me. Somebody asked me, why are you charging so little for your class? I said, well, this is the first time I've done a Zoom class. I've taught a lot in the past, but first time I've done a Zoom class. So I hope you feel like you've gotten something from today, and please practice at home. One last thing, if you want me to take a look at what you have done at home and give you some pointers, you're going to need to email me. We could do a Zoom meeting just between the two of us, and we could talk about your painting or the work that you have done during the week. That's part of this class. But I will count on you to let me know that that's what you want to do. Okay? Okay, so just let me hear from you. All right? Anything else?
Thank you,
All right.
Judy.
Well,
Thank
thank you. Thank you, everybody. And
Thank you.
I'll look forward to seeing you next week. Maybe it'll go a little bit smoother next week. I hope so. All right. All right.
Good,
Bless you.
good job.
Enjoyed
Take
it.
care.
much.
Enjoy your weekend.
My
All
question for
right.
next
All
week
right.
is, do we need to have everything set up and ready to paint?
If you want to paint along, yes. Have
Okay.
everything ready and set up to go. And you are welcome to do that. I think that'd be that's what Barb did. Barb, bless your heart, I've left you out. Do you have any questions? No? Okay. She said I
Okay.
answered them all. So y'all asked the right questions.
I have one quick question. If we, for
Okay.
the paint along, what size canvas do we use? Or do we use one of the Fredericks sheets? Or what do you want us to use next week?
You know, anything on that supply list that I sent you is fine. You know, whatever you want to, those Fredericks canvas sheets, I like painting on those, and they're not bad at all. So just put them on a board and put masking tape around them, and you'd be good to go. And as
Okay.
far as the size, for those of you that have painted in the past and you like to paint big, be my guest. We'll talk a little bit about that on the session next week. I want to review what we've done today, but jump into color, and let's talk about color a little more. Okay. Next week I'll do a color demo. Okay. And then the following week I want to talk about coming up on the remaining 4 weeks. We're going to be having a class on composition where we'll talk about no-tan and how to design a painting, and we'll get more into canvas size then. But until then, I would suggest, I like to paint smaller when I'm just painting a few objects. So, but if you are used to painting bigger and want to do that, be my guest. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Great.
All
Thank you.
right. God bless you all, and have
You
a good
too.
week.
Thanks.
Okay.
Have a good
Bye.
week.
Don't
Thank
Don't
you.
forget
All right,
to
bye,
email
y'all.
me.
Okay,
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.